The heart is the powerhouse of the circulatory system. It's continuously moving blood throughout the entire body, providing oxygenated blood and nutrients, while also carrying away waste and returning that deoxygenated blood back to the lungs. Understanding the flow of blood through the cardiac system is vital to being able to understand the problems and conditions that come up along the way at various points. Let's start off with some basic foundations before we begin. When we are talking about veins, then we are talking about blood vessels that are carrying deoxygenated blood towards the heart. And when we are talking about arteries, then we are talking about the blood vessels carrying oxygenated blood away from the heart. For the sake of our drawing, blue is going to be used to signify deoxygenated blood and red is going to be our oxygenated blood. Let's go and take a look inside the heart structure. There are 4 main chambers, 2 upper chambers called atria, and 2 lower chambers called ventricles. We have one of each on each side of the heart. We have the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, and the left ventricle. The atria help to fully load the ventricle before it then ejects blood away from the heart. The heart can also be divided up into the right and left sides. The right side is going to be responsible for deoxygenated blood going right to the lungs. And then the left side is responsible for oxygenated blood that has just left the lungs. There are also 4 heart valves, one at the exit of each of the 4 chambers. Exiting from the right atrium, we have the tricuspid valve. Exiting from the right ventricle, we have the pulmonic valve. Exiting the left atrium, we have the mitral valve. This is something that also is known as the bicuspid valve. Then finally exiting the left ventricle, we have the aortic valve. Each of these valves act as a one-way valve, to prevent backflow of blood in the system. Normal valves have 3 leaflets, with the exception of the mitral valve, which only has 2. Hence, the name bicuspid. There are blood vessels which bring blood to, as well as, carry blood away, from the heart. The inferior vena cava has blood originating from the trunk and visceral organs on the lower body. The superior vena cava has blood originating from the head and upper body. These 2 together bring most of the deoxygenated blood from the body back to the heart and empty into the right atrium. Next we have the pulmonary artery, which is going to carry the deoxygenated blood away from the heart to the lungs to be oxygenated. We have both the right and left pulmonary veins, which are bringing the oxygenate blood from lungs back to the heart and emptying into the left atrium. From finally aortic, carries the oxygen in the blood away from the heart to the rest of the body. We have covered the structures, so let's actually see how the blood flows through the system. It starts with the deoxygenated blood returning to the heart, via the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. This blood empties into the right atrium. The right atrium then contracts the blood through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The right ventricle then contracts, injecting the blood through the pulmonic valve into the pulmonary artery. Remember, this is an artery, because the blood is going away from the heart. but it's also blue here, because this is still deoxygenated blood. The pulmonary artery branches and carries blood to the left and the right lungs, to receive oxygen and release carbon dioxide. After the blood leaves the lungs, the oxygenated blood is going to return to the heart via the pulmonary veins. Remember that these are veins because they're carrying blood towards the heart, but they are red here because this is now oxygenated blood. The pulmonary veins empty the blood into the left atrium. The left atrium contracts the blood through the mitral valve, into the left ventricle. The left ventricle then contracts, ejecting that blood through the aortic valve, into the aortic and on to the rest of the body.